Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hi, and welcome to April the 8th, Around the World Today episode with me, Terry Davies. And you've probably guessed from the title of this episode that it's called Still in Lockdown. Well, yes, the United Kingdom is still in lockdown. If you've missed this show, from today we are doing twice a week podcasts of Around the World Today. So there'll be another one on Good Friday. And Good Friday's one, we'll be talking about Easter and what it means to me as a Christian. But today we're talking about the lockdown, and it's still going on. Coronavirus is still sweeping across the world. Halfway through this, we'll talk about coronavirus. So a little bit about me. Do you know something, people? I found the last couple of days to be quite, I don't know, refreshing, shall we say? I now enjoy spending time with family members. I didn't before. Like watching TV, I can't stand watching daytime TV and stuff like that. But when it's the only thing on to do, you got to. Now, my thing is that, you know, maybe we should work on daytime TV and get it a little bit better, as there isn't much on. But you know. And then in the night, I've taken to playing Trump Bingo. It's something that I want to try here in the United Kingdom when the world gets back to normal. And when I say normal, I don't mean, you know, like we were before, but, you know, less lockdown, more going out, more able to hold the Prime Minister to account and the government without idiots saying, well, you know, you've got to give him a chance, he's doing his best job. Hello? The Prime Minister hasn't been doing his best job, because if the Prime Minister and this government were doing their best job where the NHS is concerned, the PPE problem would have never happened. Ever so slightly, do you know what I mean? So the hospitals would have enough PPE to be able to get them through this. However, hospitals are still crying out, and carers, shop workers, bus drivers, every other essential key worker is crying out for PPE. And the government has somehow failed miserably. And some of the stocks that they've given out to the devolved governments, and then the devolved governments are giving it out to the NHS, and even in England, haven't been, you know, PPE that's workable. In one case, I heard of PPE being distributed to a hospital that was out of date. Sorry, but how can you allow this to happen if you're the health minister? And another one of my pet hates is, I'm Welsh, I live in Wales, and the NHS is devolved. Now, every day at 5 p.m. in the UK, or around about that time, there seems to be a Downing Street broadcast. And you bring out the health minister, whoopee-doo. But whenever the health minister, the Prime Minister, or anyone from Westminster is talking about the NHS, it doesn't apply to me in Wales. It doesn't apply to the people in Scotland. And it surely doesn't apply to the people in Northern Ireland or in the British Overseas Territories, because our health services are devolved to our own parliaments. So therefore, could someone explain why everyone in Wales doesn't get this yet? Because, you know, we are watching these press conferences. People were like, oh, when's the next press conference? And this was before lockdown, asking for Boris to lock down. Question. When the police, since 2010, have suffered cuts of about 20,000 police constables or police officers, and the army has suffered cuts for about 50,000 personnel. Not only the army, the navy, the air force, the marines are all taken into that 50,000. So when the military have faced these cuts, how can you lock down a country that has less than 70,000 personnel less than it did 10 years ago? You can't. So the military has had to prioritise, instead of policing and locking down, they've had to prioritise supporting our NHS. Well, wouldn't you agree that protecting life is better than, seeing soldiers on the streets? Sorry, I'm now getting an alarm saying that a phone needs to be charged. But this phone is an old phone that my mum uses for work as an alarm, because this is coming to you overlooking Swansea right now. So yes, we will now switch this off. So that's gone off. Okay, so where are we? We're in Swansea. We're in a lockdown. We're having a lovely day. So yeah, when there's been cuts, drastic cuts to budgets, military, everything, was on the table in 2010 when the Conservative government were making cuts. These people are praising Boris Johnson for putting money into the NHS, something the Conservatives were meant to have done since 2010, but haven't. Since 2010, we have asked the Conservatives to look after our NHS, but have the Conservatives looked after the NHS as a whole? Have they really looked after the country? Considering the country is now in a worse state than it was under Gordon Brown, and that's saying something because we had a worldwide financial crash, 2 wars. We're in a worse position than we're in now because the government have no leadership. The Prime Minister is currently in hospital. The Cabinet are currently arguing amongst themselves who is in charge. Meanwhile, propaganda is coming out of 10 Downing Street, and I wouldn't believe much of the stuff coming out of 10 Downing Street right now, because basically on Sunday the Prime Minister was well. On Monday, up until 8 p.m, the Prime Minister was sitting up in bed, still running the country. Now, at 8 p.m. on Monday, it was announced that the Prime Minister was taken to intensive care. For people who have been to a hospital and have been to an intensive care unit, we all know that they don't give you a bed in intensive care, even if you're the Queen, unless you need that bed and the specialist nursing and the specialist equipment. So I doubt that the Prime Minister today, after being sent into intensive care 2 days ago, is sitting up in bed running the country. So my question to this cabinet of defunctionals is, who's running the country? Who's looking after the security aspects of the United Kingdom? Considering if there was an attack of any kind on the United Kingdom, it would be up to one of those functionaries to give orders to military personnel and to insist that our troops go in. Now, the Defence Secretary requires the permission of a senior cabinet member, such as the Prime Minister, before he uses Her Majesty's troops. Now, yes, it can be, the Queen can give that order herself. But surely, in this time of a great national emergency, we shouldn't be playing fast and loose with the responsibilities of the government, like the Conservatives are. There again, we shouldn't be playing fast and loose, even out of a national emergency. The Conservatives have been in power since 2010. They have made numerous cuts since 2010. But so many people in the United Kingdom are willing to forget that because of a personality complex with someone named Bumbling Boris. Well, Bumbling Boris doesn't really represent you, me, or the normal person on the street, considering bumbling Boris was born in New York City. And what really gets me is Donald Trump. Now, like I said, I've been playing Trump Bingo in the night. It's a very good game. But Donald Trump sending his prayers to Boris Johnson. Sorry, but keep your prayers. Pray for the NHS, the Boris Johnson's government. Boris Johnson has underfunded. Pray for the nurses, the doctors who will treat Boris Johnson. Don't pray for Boris Johnson. At the end of the day, you know, he's made his bed. He can lie in it. And then these people are like, Boris has got to get through. Boris has got to get through. He's got to get better. But what they don't seem to understand is God's will be done. Meaning that if Boris is being called by God to go to his death or move to the next kingdom, Boris can't control that. Neither can you. So if your time is going to come, your time is going to come. However, that doesn't mean that you don't have to. Yeah, we're in a national emergency. Call the government out for, their mishandling. Yes, you can do that. You don't have to be political saying, well, Labour will do it this way. No, call them out. If they're not handling it to the way that you want them to handle this whole situation, call out the government. At the end of the day, you are a taxpayer in the United Kingdom. There are only 3 things in life that we are guaranteed as humans. The first one of that is that we are born. We're all born. The second is we will all pay tax. And the third is that we will all die. They are 3 things that we as human beings cannot get away from. Born, tax, death. So, everything in between is quite irrelevant, really, isn't it? You can have as much fun as you want, you can have as much hatred as you want, but however, we're all going to last the same way. We've all got 3 things in common. We are born, we will pay tax, we will die. And that is really it. Do you know what I mean? We were all born to, serve, to do what we want. Our lives have been mapped out. Then we all go and start work once we've been a kid, and we'll pay tax, and then we'll all die. And some people die young, some people die old, some people die, middle-aged. But what can you do about that? Nothing. Because, once again, if your time is called, your time is called. If you're going to get this virus, you're going to get it. Pray for the NHS. Pray for the army who are helping the NHS. Pray for the doctors, the nurses, the volunteers who are helping vulnerable people. The people who have been made unemployed by this. Pray for them. Don't pray for the government who have been mishandling this, should I say, since day one. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there because it's been a bit of a rant, isn't it? And I will see you on Good Friday. People, give your loved ones a big hug. Tell them you love them. And be safe out there. And have a good day. And see you soon.
Welcome everybody to this week's episode.
And I just pressed the wrong button. Remember, guys, visit our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/RealTario, or you can send me a tweet @RealTario.